Welcome to a mini album a month class. We will be doing a spiral bound art journal today. Alright, to start the album I have this book from Seven Gypsies. Here's the inside pages. You can see that they're just manila covered. There are 3 tabs in this particular album. And then I have cut a piece of pattern paper to fit the cover. And to mark where I'm going to cut the spiral edges, I just use a pencil and mark in a little bit. Then I have a hole punch and some scissors. We'll start with the scissors. Now, using the scissors, cut from the edge into the middle of the paper, about 1/8 of an inch, depending on how thick your spirals are. You can actually measure from the hole marked in your book to the edge of your book to see how long your spirals are. Okay, once I've cut each of these lines, I use the paper punch. It's about 1/4 of an inch paper punch. You can go smaller or larger depending on your spiral. And then I actually just punch a hole at the very top of the cut that I've made, meaning I'm cutting towards the center and punching at the top of the cut. You can see how it looks like. I'm using my pencil just to poke through those extra little pieces and pulling off the things didn't punch all the way through. Okay, let's check to make sure that my spirals fit. Okay, yep, it looks like it fit and it's tight. So then gently take it back off. And I have some brown stamping ink. It's the same ink that I use on all my projects. And I'm just going to ink the edges of this album. You use a strong adhesive to put pattern paper or cardstock on a chipboard album. I'm actually just using a light album. I'm rather a light adhesive. You can use glue sticks, you can use a thicker medium, whatever you like to use is just fine. So again, I put this down and I poke the holes or the paper through where the holes will go. Then I scoop my pencil inside and kind of just press down to make sure the adhesive sticks really well. So there you have the cover covered with pattern paper. I can go back and add adhesive if it's not sticking. I'm going to add a little glue dot to make sure that it sticks. I have this paper piecing punch pad that I've had forever that's perfect for stamping. We're going to use this raindrop background stamp from Hero Arts, and this Stampin' pad from Stampin' Up. I actually quite like this. It's a sand color, but you can use any color that you like. And ink the entire background stamp. There's 2 ways to actually stamp a background image. You could put the paper down and stamp the stamp on top, or you can do this method, which I learned from Jen McGuire, which you put the cardstock on top and then gently rub the image into the paper. It seems to give a nice, even stamped image. And there you have it. There's my stamped image. Looks nice and neat. And again, I rubbed almost everything in this project with the brown stamping ink. Just put adhesive on the back of your paper and place it down on the album. I have pre-cut a piece of cardstock, or rather pattern paper from my mind's eye, and I'm going to round the bottom corners of this paper. And again, rub the edges with brown stamping ink. You'll notice that the My Mind's eye paper has two sides, and both sides will be used on this particular cover. I like paper that comes in two different sizes. It gives me a lot more options on my projects. So here's the same paper, and I'm going to use a pencil to measure out how much of a border I want. I always mark on the back of the piece of paper so then I don't have to worry about erasing it later. This dotted piece of pattern paper actually inspired the entire color scheme of this album. It had a lot of muted spring colors, which I thought were beautiful. Here's the scallop sentiment punch from Fiskars. These border punches are a necessity, I think. I quite like them. But I turn them upside down to punch, and then following the pattern, this has 3 scallops at a time, I realign the pattern and cut again, and I just repeat this over and over again. Slide it, match 3, punch, and keep doing the same thing. Whenever you have a bright color that you're working with, using distress ink or brown stamping ink makes the color a little bit lighter. Now we'll adhere the scallop border to the pattern paper border. When you are lining up scallops, make sure that the scallop on the right edge or the right border matches the scallop on the left border. So you want to center your pattern paper in the middle of the scallops. It's just a professional tip to make things look a little nicer. So trim out any excess that you have. You could have pre-trimmed this cardstock piece to be a little smaller. You don't want it too small or it's hard to manipulate in your border punch. So because this piece is a little thicker, I'm going to actually use glue dots to make sure that it sticks. And in placing it, I'm realizing that I'm going to want to move it down a little bit, and I am going to want to make room for the spirals on the left side. So as you get into projects, you'll realize that things aren't going to work and you have to switch them out. So I just gently pull it out. I trim it, make sure my line is long enough, cut it longer if I need to. And then again, punch a hole at the top of the cut. And actually it looks like I'm going to have to cut a second line and for my second spiral. It's really important to make sure that these lines match up with your spirals so that your paper fits snugly against the edge of the album, the left edge of the album. Okay, here we go. So push the spiral end in first and then add the rest down below. I have previously cut this die cut, this fabulous die cut, using my Silhouette die cut machine. It's a digital download shape that you can get off their website. You can actually purchase the machine through 2Ps. And I'm using this Zig glue pen to color on the back of the die cut. I love these pens because it allows me to make sure the adhesive is only going where I want it to go. So this pen just sits on top of my desk with all the other supplies that I use frequently. For a bigger die cut shape, I'll use a different kind of adhesive, but this glue pen's best for this kind of project. So just press down the die cut, and here's what we have so far. Cute little cover. Now I bought this gorgeous large flower from Prima. It actually comes in a packet of 2. This is the larger of the 2 flowers. I'm going to use pop dots to add a little more dimension to this flower. You could use dimensional glue dots. You could actually just use the strong adhesive, whatever you like to add the flower. I just wanted it to pop up just a little bit more. To use these pins, you just push them through the material. Might have to use a little force depending on your project. Just don't poke yourself. And there you have the pins. Alright, we're going to start creating the inner pages. We have subheaders and we have art pages. Here's what the finished journal looks like so far. I've added ribbon and pearls. This is what our section headers look like. There's that one. There's blank pages in between. And this is the one we're going to use today. This is called the number page because she likes to paint by number. To create the subheader pages, you need a photo that's been printed with a white border around it. I've added text before printing it out so that I could add a little more interest to the photo. I also changed the photo to black and white since her art will predominantly be colored. So mount the photo on the page, making sure it's closer to the top. I've pre-cut a pattern paper border. This paper is also from My Mind's Eye. It's the back side of the paper. And I'm going to use the corner rounder to round the bottom two edges of this piece of pattern paper. Again, I'll distress the edge with brown stamping ink. I'll add adhesive and add it to the bottom of my page. I've pre-cut a thin strip of cardstock. This is green. I tried to use coordinating colors, but not necessarily the same color. When I have a thin strip of cardstock like this, I don't like to add adhesive directly on my work surface. I get a scratch piece of paper, turn the cardstock strip over, and add adhesive to the back. If you leave adhesive on your workspace, when you place things like a photo or a piece of paper or an embellishment on it, it picks up the adhesive. So either keep your surface clean or use scratch pieces of paper. Here's what it looks like close up. And then this chipboard flower is from American Crafts. Because it's thicker, I'm going to use a glue dot and just adhere it to my page. I have a salmon pink button, and I'm going to thread tan craft twine through the button and tie it into a bow. Getting the perfect bow takes some work. I usually tie the bow loosely, and then holding my thumb over the knot area, I pull the ends of the bow until I get the loops exactly how I want them. Again, I just use glue dots whenever I have a button. If the ends of your bow are a little long, you can use scissors just to trim them a little bit. And then I have some pearl gems. I've used these throughout the book. I try, once I've introduced an embellishment, to repeat it throughout my project. This gives the project some cohesiveness. This is a die cut from Quick Cuts. I don't know if you can see it, but it is actually a photo corner. This is what it looks like when it's punched. You actually are going to assemble it. It has perforated edges for where you fold it, and you fold it and add adhesive. I'm going to use mini glue dots. Bend it over, and here's what it looks like completed. I love, love, love this die cut. Nicole turned me on to this die cut, and I have really loved it. To add it to my photo, I'm going to actually put a glue dot on the top, and I'm going to slide the photo corner on, and then I'm going to press it down on the glue dot so that it sticks. And I'll repeat the same thing for this photo corner. When I'm purchasing die cuts, I try to buy die cuts that will work on more than one project. I am in love with photo corners. I use them on almost all my projects. This was a purchase that made a lot of sense. So there you have it. Those are the subheader pages. Now I'm going to show you what it looks like to create a art page. This is the date she created it. Some of this album is still blank because she is major into creating art, and I just want to leave some space for her to add her current projects. So I use the scientific method of just placing the cardstock front side down and using a pencil to mark off where I'm going to cut, and then I use my paper cutter to cut it. Some people use the ruler function on their paper cutter. I've always been a pencil marking person. It's a bad habit, but I still use it. And again, I've inked nearly everything on this project with this brown stamping ink. Because I'm going to have a photo on this paper, I'm going to use glue dots to adhere this down instead of a tape roller. Just center it on your page. Then here's a photo I took of my daughter's art project. As I printed it out, I print from home. I left a white border on the outside edge of the photo. It looks like an old photo that we've had for a while. I kind of like that effect. You can actually just use whatever photo you have. So just center that on the page, leaving a little bit of space at the bottom. Now I have this decorative tape that comes from Little Yellow Bicycle. It's sticky on the back like a sticker. And then I just tear it like regular tape, and I'm going to put it down on the corners of this picture. This tape has a pretty pattern to it, so it makes regular tape look more interesting. This is a date stamp that I picked up at a local office supply store. I keep this on hand. This is a quick and easy way for me to remember and document either when the layout was created or when I made the page. Or the journaling. So I love this Memento black ink. It's very juicy. It stays juicy, a nice rich black. And then you just stamp at the bottom of your project. And there you have the finished page. I wanted to show you that on this particular page, after we'd finished it, my daughter added her journaling about the project. It will be interesting to see what she remembers. You can see more about this particular album by visiting 2Ps and looking for the Education Forum.